everyone, and welcome back to Keeping Up with Contenders for Week 3. Now that we've reached the midway point in the season, this is where the fight for a top 4 spot in each group comes even closer to the wire. So let's take a look into how the games went down this week, and be ready as we enter into the latter half of the season. Lucky Future versus Big Time Regal Gaming. Lucky Future haven't yet made their big splash as a team, but they have strong DPS player Blackbean, and going against BTRG who don't consistently play 3-3 compositions, this could be their chance. China is the region of DPS play, and this matchup has two heavyweights, Blackbean on the side of Lucky Future and Effort for BTRG. Lucky Future showed their distaste for dry fights. If they're going in, their ultimates are coming with them. BTRG were much more consistent with their strategies, and their game sense clearly outclassed Lucky Future's. It was definitely a case of BTRG's brains over Lucky Future's brawn. LF's brute force tactics didn't work well against BTRG's adaptability and strategy, and playing squishy comps into well-protected Zarya like Effort just didn't work out too well. 666 Legend versus Zenith of Optimism. Both teams were coming into this matchup at 0-8, but TSL had only faced two of the top teams, Team CC and T1W. They had also qualified for the Land Story Cup, so in spite of the map differential, maybe TSL had the advantage. However, Zoo thrive in a more chaotic dive composition, and it was possible that if TSL stuck to their favoured tank-heavy style, led by main tank DPS, then maybe they could end up playing straight into Zoo's hands. Zoo, however, ended up coordinating their tanks very well, but just weren't targeting the right heroes. If they had honed in on Night God and Runcheng, perhaps this would go a bit better. They needed to commit more to their dives too, which suggested a lack of confidence. If you're not diving, doesn't that mean you don't believe you can win the fight? TSL knew their win conditions as Zoo made fatal mistakes. DPS did a lot of the work, but it was maybe possible that if Zoo had picked Hanamura over Horizon Lunar Colony, their triple DPS comp would maybe have worked more effectively. Flag Gaming versus Restart. This was going to be quite possibly the most hype match of the day purely because Restart's new player, Delete Brig. But not only that, it could end up being a lot closer than expected, as the style clash between these two teams was very reminiscent of the one that shook up the LGD versus Flag Gaming match last week. It was immediately obvious that Mika and Coldest were doing well, although Lie was not supporting Coldest as best he could via Zarya. When Flag beat LGD, they played DPS into LGD's stubborn tanks, but now the shoe was on the other foot, and they were the stubborn tanks with Restart's DPS coming at them. They had to switch back. In spite of the hype, Delete Brig wasn't as good as Zarya as we'd hoped, as he didn't always help ones when he should have. However, much of Flag's success could be attributed to Coldest, who was always fast at charging up his transcendences, and MG, who was the glue holding the team together. T1W versus Lingan Esports. This was going to be the series of the week. Both teams were at the same map differential, so this was going to be a fight to prove themselves as deserving that top spot. Both teams had so far played Laboratory, who are known for their more crazy playstyles, but LGE's win was more convincing. The question was this because they were better, or simply because they'd had an extra week of practice? Amazingly, we saw a lot of GOATs, and it looked like T1W had been practicing. These teams with DPS players like Kami, Malamran and Migia had put down their rockets and gauntlets for gravitons and shields, and for T1W, it was working well. It was clear that LGE had an understanding of comps, judging by the switches they made, but T1W just looked so strong, something which future opponents like Team CC should be worried about. LGD Gaming versus Alter Ego. Coming into this game, this was going to be the last chance realistically for Alter Ego to prove themselves. At 7 map losses, losing this game would mean they're virtually out of playoff contention. LGE have a good reputation, but main tank turned DPS player Shocheng didn't really impress last week. And would LGE finally figure out their new identity instead of trying to rely on tanks like they could with Guxue? LGD actually showed up, but mostly thanks to Eternal's impressive Brigitte play and Hoyo Chan's Lucio, including a fat boop on Ilios. Alter Ego's healers were getting much less value due to having less protection. It showed that AE was fine at cleaning up a fight, but struggled when it came to making initial engagements. They ended up getting full held on both Hanamura and Route 66, leaving the victory in LGD's hands. Team CC versus Laboratory. Things were in dire straits for Lab as TSL had 4-0'd Zoo the previous day, meaning Lab would need to 4-0 Team CC to be on par with them and fight for top 4. Team CC are known for more standard compositional preferences, but Lab for their eccentricity, so there was a chance this clash of styles could bring CC down, right? It seemed not. Seeds insisted upon playing Wrecking Ball, which didn't impress. Kenobi, you weren't very happy with Seeds Hammond, and in fact, you cheered when he got subbed out. So tell me about this, I want to know.
Yes, thank you.
And Team CC truly lived up to their name when they picked May to zone out the hamster. He continually left behind his supports to just chill behind the point. Off-tank Bins was clearly trying his hardest to hold the team together, but it wasn't enough. Team CC retained their dominance. And that was Keeping Up with Contenders Week 3. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can catch the broadcast this weekend at twitch.tv/broadcastgg to see how these teams shape up for the end of the season, and head back to this channel to catch up with everything that happened in Week 4. I'll see you next week.